She thought she'd stolen my future, but I'd already outplayed her. My name is Owen Caldwell. I'm a 39-year-old commercial architect in Boise, Idaho, sitting in my home office staring at an email from my wife of 14 years. Lila was supposedly at a yoga retreat in Colorado. The timestamp showed 10:15 p.m. her time. I've moved your inheritance into my personal account. It's better this way. Attached was a photo, blurry, her and some guy with a beard on a balcony, sunset behind them, glasses of wine, her smile different than any she'd given me in years. I gripped the mouse, my pulse racing. She wasn't just leaving, she was trying to bury me. I closed my laptop and walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, stared out at the backyard we'd redesigned together 4 summers ago, the stone path I'd laid while she'd planted roses along the edges. All that work for a home she apparently had no intention of coming back to. You think you've won, I muttered to the empty room, but you've just lit the fuse. That money, $623,000, 0 cents from my Aunt Beatrice, wasn't just cash. It represented the woman who'd taken me in after my parents died when I was 15, who'd worked double shifts at the hospital to put me through college, who'd left everything to me with one simple note: build something that lasts. I looked at my phone, no missed calls, no texts asking if I'd seen the email, just silence, like she'd already moved on to her new life. I opened her email again, the photo taunting me. "Who are you?" I whispered to the bearded stranger, my resolve hardening. The signs had been there for months. Lila's yoga retreats had become more frequent. 2 days became 5 days, became week-long excursions. Her phone stayed face down on tables, passwords changed, conversations shortened. 4 months ago, she'd asked odd questions about the inheritance. Where exactly the money was, which accounts, whether we should diversify where it was held. I'd nodded, said I'd think about it. "You were testing me," I said aloud, piecing it together. And I was too blind to see. I reopened the laptop, read the email again, noticed she hadn't even bothered with a greeting or my name, just the declaration and the theft. I typed 6 words in response. "Thanks for letting me know." Then I closed the laptop, finished my water, and went to bed. Tomorrow would be a long day, but sitting alone in that king-size bed, I realized something that should have bothered me, but didn't. I slept better, knowing she wasn't coming back. The calm wasn't surrender. It was clarity. She'd made her move, but mine was coming. What Lila didn't know was that I'd sensed something wrong months ago. The inheritance had never been where she thought it was, and her attempt to take it had just given me everything I needed. I met Lila 17 years ago at an industry conference in Denver. She was launching her wellness brand, looking for architects to design her first brick-and-mortar space. I was 6 years into my career, hungry for projects that weren't just office buildings and parking structures. We married within 4 years. Built a life in Boise where my firm had its headquarters. Bought the Craftsman on Riverside Avenue with the wraparound porch she'd always wanted. No kids, her choice. "The business is my baby," she'd say. I understood. My buildings were mine. For 9 years, things worked. I designed, she built her brand of organic products and wellness retreats. We traveled, we hosted dinner parties, we looked good on paper and in person. But even then, I missed the cracks. "You're too focused on work," she'd say, her tone sharp. "I'm building our future," I'd reply. She'd smile, but it never reached her eyes. Then my Aunt Beatrice got sick. Cancer, fast and merciless. I took a 7-month partial leave to care for her in Portland. Lila visited twice. "Hospitals depress me," she explained. I didn't push it. When Beatrice died, she left everything to me. The money surprised me. I'd had no idea she'd invested so carefully over the years. Lila seemed surprised too, suddenly interested in our financial planning in ways she'd never been. "We should put it toward expanding the business," she suggested one night over dinner. Her business, she meant. "I need to think about what Beatrice would want," I said. That was the first crack, small but visible. "You're so sentimental," she snapped that night. "It's just money." I stared at her, stunned. "It's Beatrice's legacy." She rolled her eyes, and I saw her mask slip. Others followed. Lila started traveling more for research and supplier meetings. Her calls became shorter, often with voices in the background that went quiet when I asked who she was with. Our neighbor Henry stopped by one afternoon while Lila was at a team retreat in Aspen. Saw someone dropping her off last week, he mentioned casually. Late, wasn't it? Thought you were out of town. I had been. 4-day conference in Seattle. I thanked him for the homemade bread his wife had sent over. Didn't ask questions, just filed it away. Was it him? I'd asked Henry later, showing the email photo. He nodded. Same guy. Same car. My stomach twisted, but I stayed calm. Then came the password changes. Banking apps locked when they'd never been before. Conversations about finances that ended abruptly when I asked specific questions. One night, I found her on the phone in the backyard. Voice low, laughing in ways. She didn't laugh with me anymore. Just Cassandra from the studio, she said, coming inside. Cassandra, who'd left the business 9 months earlier. I nodded, didn't correct her. Just watched as she poured herself more wine and changed the subject. You're lying, I wanted to say, but held back. I'll catch you soon enough. The foundation was cracking beneath us, and only one of us was being honest about it. 3 weeks before Leela left for what would be her final retreat, my firm's financial advisor called. Someone's been trying to access information about your trust accounts, Martin said, using your personal information but not passing the security protocols. Which accounts, I asked, though I already knew. The inheritance funds. They tried using the last 4 of your social but couldn't answer the security questions. I thanked him, hung up, and sat at my desk for a long time. It's her, I whispered, the truth sinking in. She's been planning this all along. That night, Lila asked if we could simplify our accounts. It's silly to have so many separate login and passwords, she said, not meeting my eyes. We should consolidate everything. You're probably right, I said. I'll talk to Martin about it. Her smile was too quick, too practiced. Good, she said. It's time we got organized. The next day, I drove to Portland, met with Sylvia Grant, my aunt's attorney for 22 years, and now mine, explained my concerns without emotion or accusation, just facts. Your aunt was wise to suggest the irrevocable trust structure, Sylvia said after I finished. The money is protected regardless of what happens in your marriage. And if someone tried to move those funds without authorization, Sylvia's expression hardened. That would be attempted financial fraud with clear legal consequences. I nodded. Let's document everything, and I want to set up a monitoring system that alerts us to any attempts to access, move, or change anything related to the trust. She won't get away with this, Sylvia said, her voice firm. We'll make sure of it. When I got home, Lila had packed for her retreat. She kissed me briefly before leaving, already distant. I might extend this one, she said at the door, really dive deep into the practice. I helped load her bags into her car, watched her drive away, went back inside and opened my laptop. I didn't snoop through her emails or texts, didn't call her friends or check her location. I simply opened our shared cloud storage where we kept household documents in a folder labeled Home Renovation Ideas, a project we'd discussed starting this year. I found what I was looking for, documents she'd forgotten to move or delete, screenshots of my accounts, copies of statements, notes about transfer protocols, a photo of a whiteboard with figures, my inheritance amount minus 18%, with the note transfer fee explanation. She'd been planning this for months. I stared at the whiteboard photo, her handwriting meticulous. You thought I wouldn't notice, I said, saving every file? Big mistake. I closed the folder, walked through our house with its carefully chosen furniture and artwork that told the story of who we pretended to be, and felt a strange calm settle over me. The betrayal wasn't shocking. What surprised me was my own response. Not rage or grief, but clarity. For the first time in years, I saw our marriage for what it had become, a transaction she was now terminating because something more profitable had come along. I slept in the guest room that night, started making calls the next morning. By the time her email arrived 6 days later, I had already set everything in motion. After receiving Lila's email, I waited exactly 36 hours before making my first move. No emotional response, no desperate calls or texts, just methodical steps. First, I contacted Martin and Sylvia, forwarding them Lila's email with a simple note, documentation requested. Both confirmed receipt. Neither needed further explanation. Then I called Victor Hayes, a divorce attorney Sylvia had recommended months earlier during one of our hypothetical conversations. His secretary scheduled a meeting for that afternoon. By noon, Lila had texted, "Did you get my email?" I responded, "Yes, that's all you have to say," she wrote back minutes later. "Don't play games, Owen," she texted again. "This is happening." I smirked. "Oh, it's happening, all right," I muttered, typing no reply. I drove to Victor's office downtown where Sylvia joined us by video call. "The attempted transfer creates a paper trail," Victor explained, reviewing the documents Sylvia had sent over. "There are multiple elements that work in your favor. The funds were inherited, never commingled with marital assets properly maintained in a trust structure. And she has now openly admitted to attempting unauthorized access." "What's next?" I asked. "File for divorce immediately, citing financial misconduct. Idaho isn't a no-fault state when fraud is involved." I signed the paperwork before leaving his office. "She'll fight dirty," Victor warned. "Be ready." I nodded. I'm not the one who should be worried. At 3:45 p.m., my phone rang, Leela's name on the screen. "You're being childish," she said when I answered. "No greeting, no how are you. This doesn't have to be difficult." "I agree," I said. "Then let's be adults about this. The money is already moved. Fighting it will just drain more through legal fees." "Where are you staying?" I asked, changing the subject. She paused, thrown off balance. "What does that matter? Just curious where home is now." "Owen, focus. We need to discuss the financial arrangements. I'm having my lawyer draw up settlement papers. It's better for both of us to keep this clean." "Who's your lawyer?" I asked. "Samuel Pierce. He's already reviewing everything." I wrote down the name. "That's helpful. Thank you, Owen. Are you even listening? This doesn't have to be difficult. You said that already." I kept my voice neutral. "I appreciate your concern for making this easy." Another pause. "What are you doing?" "Nothing yet. Getting used to the idea, I guess." I could hear her relax on the other end, misreading my calm as resignation. "It's for the best," she said, softening her tone. "We've been moving in different directions for years. This is cleaner than dragging it out." "You're right," I agreed. "Cleaner is better." "You're too calm," she said, suspicion creeping in. "What's your angle?" I smiled. "Just agreeing with you, Lila. Isn't that what you want?" After we hung up, I called Victor back and gave him Samuel Pierce's information. Then I sent a single text to Lila, taking some time to process. "We'll reach out when I'm ready to discuss details." Her response came immediately. "Don't wait too long. Papers will be ready by Thursday." Thursday, 4 days away. Perfect timing. At 5 p.m., Sylvia called. The trust company has recorded 3 separate attempts to initiate transfers from the trust accounts today, all properly documented and blocked. And the monitoring system captured everything. IP addresses, login attempts, timestamps. The access location matches where the email originated from. Colorado, Boulder, not Aspen. Sylvia paused. "There's more." The system flagged suspicious activity from last month. Someone exported account details and transfer protocols while logged in through your home network. "We have timestamps and device identifiers." I thanked her and hung up. Walked through the empty house that now felt more like evidence than a home. In the kitchen, I opened the bottle of 18-year-old scotch we'd been saving for our 16th anniversary, poured 2 fingers into a glass. Leela thought she'd set the trap. She had no idea she'd walked right into one herself. I raised the glass to the empty room. "To your downfall," I said, the scotch burning my throat. The next morning, Samuel Pierce called, his tone professionally cautious. "Mr. Caldwell, I'm representing your wife in your separation. She's indicated you're amenable to a straightforward settlement." "Is that what she said?" A slight hesitation. "She mentioned you understood the situation." "Which situation would that be specifically?" Another pause. "The division of assets, including recent inheritance funds. Has she shown you documentation of these funds?" "She's provided statements," he said carefully. "Recent ones from approximately 4 months ago." I made a note. "And transfer confirmations. She's indicated those are forthcoming from the bank." "I see." I kept my voice neutral. "Has she also mentioned the structure of the inheritance? The irrevocable trust established by my late aunt? The legal impossibility of what she's claiming to have done?" Silence. Mr. Pierce, I suggest you verify the information you've been given before proceeding. My attorney will send relevant documentation to your office today. You're in over your head, I added. Tell Lila to come clean before it's too late. After hanging up, I drove to Clearview Bank, where Lila and I had kept our personal accounts for years. The manager, Leonard, had handled our mortgage refinancing 3 years earlier. I need to review recent activity on all joint accounts, I explained after he welcomed me into his office. Leonard pulled up our information. His expression shifted as he scrolled through the screens. There have been significant withdrawals, he said, over the past 4 months. How significant? He turned the monitor toward me. Regular transfers from our joint account to one I didn't recognize. Small at first, $1,800, 0 cents, $4,200, 0 cents, then escalating. The most recent, $52,000, 0 cents, 3 weeks ago. This receiving account, I asked, pointing to the number. Is it with Clearview? Leonard checked. No, it's external, Mountain Ridge Credit Union. I'd never heard of it. Can you print the transaction history for the past 7 months? While waiting for the printouts, I received a text from Victor Pierce requesting urgent meeting. Tone significantly changed. By the time I returned to Victor's office, the picture was becoming clearer. The Mountain Ridge account had been opened 9 months ago in Lila's name only. The address listed was an apartment in Boulder, Colorado. Total withdrawals from our joint accounts, $194,000, 0 cents by $300, 0 cents. She's been building a new life for a while, Victor observed. While still having access to mine, I added. She played me for years, I said, voice tight. But she's about to lose everything. We were reviewing the bank records when Victor's assistant announced Samuel Pierce was on the line. I've received the trust documentation, Pierce said, his voice tight. My client may have misrepresented certain aspects of the financial situation, including her ability to access or transfer those funds, Victor asked. That appears to be the case, Pierce admitted. Given this new information, I believe it would be beneficial for all parties to discuss a revised approach. My client has already filed for divorce, citing financial misconduct, Victor replied. The documentation speaks for itself. After the call ended, Victor looked at me. He'll drop her as a client by end of day. No legitimate attorney wants to be associated with this. What about the money she actually did take from the joint accounts? We'll include it in the filing, document everything. Let her explain to a judge why she established a hidden residence and systematically drained marital assets. I nodded, feeling strangely hollow. The betrayal went deeper than I'd imagined. This wasn't impulsive, it was calculated, planned over months while she slept beside me, ate across from me, made plans with me. There's one more thing, I said. I need to know who he is, not for confrontation, not even for the divorce proceedings. I just needed to understand the full scope of what I'd missed while building what I thought was a life together. Victor nodded. I'll have someone look into it. She didn't just betray me, I said. She replaced me. I need to know how far this goes. That evening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find a courier holding an envelope. Delivery for Owen Caldwell, he said. Inside was a letter from Samuel Pierce, formally withdrawing as Lila's legal representation with copies sent to both Lila and the court. Attached was a note from Victor. First domino. My phone lit up minutes later. Lila calling. I let it go to voicemail. She called 3 more times before sending a text. What the hell did you do? I didn't respond. While eating a sandwich at the kitchen counter, I received an email from Sylvia with a subject line that simply read, Update. The trust company had completed their investigation into the access attempts. They documented multiple unauthorized attempts over 4 months, all captured in detailed logs with IP addresses and timestamps. The report was attached, along with confirmation they'd referred the matter to their legal department for potential criminal investigation. No action required from you at this time, Sylvia wrote, but be aware, this path is now open. I forwarded everything to Victor. Just after 8:00 p.m., another text from Lila. We need to talk now, I replied, through your new attorney, when you have one. You've completely overreacted. I was angry when I sent that email. I didn't actually move anything. That's not what the access logs show. A long pause before her next message. What access logs? Instead of answering, I sent one question. Who is he? 25 minutes passed. Finally, this isn't about him. Name? Another long pause. Ian. But he's not important. Last name Thornton. He's just a friend who's helping me through this. You're focusing on the wrong thing. A friend? I texted back. In our house while I was gone? Try again. No reply came. I didn't respond further. Instead, I searched the name, found an Ian Thornton, who taught at a yoga studio in Boulder, former investment broker, according to his LinkedIn profile, left the financial sector 4 years ago to pursue more meaningful connections. The next morning, I met with Henry, our neighbor. The guy you saw dropping Lila off? I began. Would you recognize him again? Henry nodded, slowly. Tall guy, beard, drives a gray Tesla. I showed him the photo from Lila's email. This him? He squinted at the image. Yeah, that's the guy. He was here maybe 5-6 times while you were traveling. I thanked him, asked if he'd be willing to provide a statement. He agreed without hesitation. She brought him here, I said to Henry, voice low, in my home. He shook his head. You didn't deserve that, Owen. At 10:00 IM rang, Victor called. We've got a complication. Lila's hired Gregory Holt. Holt had a reputation for aggressive divorce litigation, expensive but effective. He's requested an emergency hearing to contest the financial misconduct claim, Victor continued. Says his client has evidence all financial decisions were discussed and agreed upon. When's the hearing? Wednesday morning, 4 days away. I thought about the apartment in Boulder, the Mountain Ridge account, the man named Ian who'd been in my house while I was away. Let's give Holt something to think about, I said. That afternoon, Victor delivered a package to Holt's office containing copies of everything. The trust access logs, the bank records showing systematic withdrawals, the apartment lease in Boulder, Henry's notarized statement about Ian's visits, and screenshots from Lila's home renovation ideas folder showing her notes on how to access my accounts. By 4:00 p.m., Victor received a call from Holt requesting an urgent meeting to discuss settlement options. He's seen enough, Victor told me afterward. Offered a clean split. She keeps what she already took, makes no further claims. You keep everything else, including the house and full inheritance. Counter, I said. She returns half of what she took from joint accounts and signs a non-disclosure agreement. I don't pursue the fraud angle. Victor raised an eyebrow. You could get more. I don't want more. I want done. She needs to feel this, I added, but I'm not sinking to her level. The morning of what would have been our emergency hearing, Lila and her attorney arrived at the courthouse to find Victor waiting with a settlement agreement already prepared. No Holt, no judge, no public spectacle. I waited in the consultation room while Victor explained the terms. Lila would transfer $97,000, 0 cents, half the money taken from joint accounts, back within 36 hours. She would make no claims against the inheritance or any other assets. She would sign a non-disclosure agreement preventing her from discussing our marriage or divorce with anyone. In exchange, I would not pursue any fraud charges related to the attempted theft of trust funds. Through the glass walls, I saw her face as Victor handed over the evidence file. Photographs, statements, account logs. Her expression shifted from defiance to shock to something like defeat. She glanced toward the room where I sat, then quickly looked away. Holt reviewed everything, leaning close to whisper in her ear. She nodded slowly. 12 minutes later, they entered the room. My client accepts the terms, Holt stated formally. Victor slid the agreement across the table. Lila signed without reading it, her handwriting shaky but determined. I signed my portion, then slid a separate envelope across to her. What's this? She asked, the first words she'd spoken. The passwords, I said, to the cloud storage house alarm. Everything else you might need to get whatever you left behind. Her eyes finally met mine, searching for anger or triumph. Finding neither, she looked more lost than I'd ever seen her. It was never about the money, I said quietly. That would have been simpler. You broke us, I added, voice steady. But I'm not broken. Holt touched her elbow, guiding her to stand. She clutched the envelope as they left, never looking back. 8 months later, I stood in the empty Craftsman on Riverside Avenue, the sale papers signed. The new owners, a young family with twins, would move in tomorrow, drawn to the wraparound porch and the roses I'd never tend again. I'd chosen a downtown loft closer to my firm, with bare walls and space for a new start. Sylvia and I had turned Beatrice's $623,000 0 cents into a foundation for architectural scholarships. Its first award going to a 16-year-old girl from eastern Idaho whose designs echoed Beatrice's belief in healing through creation. She'd be proud, Sylvia said at the ceremony. I nodded, but my thoughts drifted to Lila. I hadn't heard from her since the settlement, but 3 weeks ago, an unmarked envelope arrived, a check for $97,000, 0 cents, the rest of what she owed, with a note, not just the money. No signature, but I knew her handwriting. I deposited it into the foundation, funding another scholarship, another chance to build. That night, I walked to the Boise riverfront, where Lila and I had once dreamed of a joint venture. A wellness space I'd design, she'd run. The dream was ashes now, like our marriage. Sitting on a bench, I watched the water, the check's weight gone, but its echo lingering. My phone buzzed. Martin, confirming dinner at 6 with a new architect he wanted me to meet. I glanced at my watch, time enough to head home, change, step into whatever came next. On my way, I texted, standing. Betrayal had carved a wound, but it hadn't defined me. Lila's choices cost her everything. Her brand faltered without my designs. Her retreats dwindled as whispers of her actions spread. I didn't rejoice in her fall. It just reminded me of Beatrice's note. Build something that lasts. I was building now, not just scholarships or buildings, but a life rooted in truth. The ache of loss lingered, a quiet companion, but so did the strength to keep going. That was enough for now.